Sometimes the hardest thing is when a woman realizes the mistake she made, how terrible it really was, and then she has to sit with it, all while trying to hold together a new relationship. My name is Brett. I'm 28, and I've been seeing Wendy for a year. She just had come out of a really nasty divorce. They had both cheated, and there was a lot of hurt and resentment on both sides. When we started seeing each other, she had a wall up. She was cordial and she allowed herself to be interested, but she wasn't emotionally connecting yet. I interpreted that to be because of the divorce itself, and her words, her stated attraction, was enough to keep me interested while she figured out how to open up to me. One day she texted me, "There's a box with some of my things at my ex's place. Cliff, I don't want to go over there. I know it's kind of a big ask, but would you go over there can get it?" When I asked her if there was likely to be trouble, she assured me that things would be okay. I went over, rang the doorbell, and this stranger opened it. At first his eyes were steely, hostile. I mentally put my guard up. "I'm Wendy's new boyfriend." I put the emphasis on new, hoping he would catch the implication that I had shown up after the divorce was finalized. Cliff grunted, softened a little, and waved me in. I walked through the house and into the garage. There were two boxes. No problem. But before I moved for them, he said, "You know, she withheld affection from me." Not for any reason, just because she didn't want me to be too in control. I nodded, saying nothing. This was something that didn't have anything to do with me, but he continued. It was almost like a switch. We went from brilliant romance, lots of physical intimacy and lots of affection, to one day she told me she felt she was giving too much. He sighed. It turned into a once-a-month thing, sometimes less. It hurt. It felt like rejection from the woman I wanted so much to love. He opened the garage door. She cheated first, ironically. Some guy at work. I was desperate for her love, and she went right behind my back with some other guy. He shook his head. And yeah, I got with a girl almost directly afterwards, and I know it was wrong, but something snapped when she cheated first. A car pulled into the lot. Cliff's eyes lit up. That's her right there. That's Andrea. I kept her. She was there for me right through the divorce. A woman climbed out of the car and embraced her. She approached him, and they kissed. "Who's this?" she asked, looking at me. He spoke low, softly. "This is Wendy's new boyfriend." I saw a darkness cross Andrea's face. Cliff took her hand. "I think he's cool." He listened. "He says he's from after the divorce." I could see her shoulders relax, at least a little. I could tell she and I were never going to be friends, but I was acceptable, at least if Cliff said so. She kept an arm around his waist. "Let me just say that as far as relationships go, I think I won the lottery. Cliff is the best man I've ever dated, and I don't care who knows that." I watched as Cliff squeezed her shoulder. Maybe he thought she was getting worked up and was trying to calm her down. Regardless, she looked up at him and smiled. I reached for a box, he picked up the other, and he and I walked to my car. "There's a lot of resentment, and maybe she has some too, but it means a lot to me that you listened," he sighed. "I lived for 5 years and no one listened to me, least of all Wendy. But now Andrea hangs on my every word, and it's like coming out into the fresh, cold air after being trapped in a musty cave." He sighed again. "I'm sure coming out here like this isn't easy for you, but I think you're one of the good ones, and I hope Wendy realizes it." I put the boxes in the back seat of my car, and we shook hands. He looked me in the eyes. "No hard feelings?" he asked. "None at all," I responded. He let out a clean smile, then walked back to Andrea, the woman who appreciated him. When I got to Wendy's apartment, I could sense a little tension. She was pleased with the boxes, but she eyed me warily. "Everything okay?" she asked. I smiled casually. "Okay." Cliff made it real easy. She nodded, going through the boxes. "Did you see the new girlfriend?" "Yeah," I responded. She gave me the stink eye, but when Cliff said I was okay, she softened. She looked at me. "They told you about stuff, didn't they?" I leaned against the counter. Cliff talked, and I listened, but it's divorce talk. He just filled in details. He didn't contradict anything you've told me. She looked up at me. "I bet he told you I cheated first." I nodded. "That did come up, but I don't run away when uncomfortable details surface." She went through the boxes, looking and acting uncomfortable. Then she started crying. I screwed up big time. She looked at me, walked over, and leaned into me. I felt like I needed to be in control, so I started holding back, telling him no way too often. I told myself that he needed to be controlled, but even when he was good, I didn't like it. After 6 months, he stopped trying. That felt wrong to me, like he was trying to counter me. I confronted him about his lack of romance. He demanded to know if we would be intimate. I told him those were two different things, and he just laughed at me. He said they were one and inseparable. Soon after, Dave at work started showing personal interest. I encouraged it, and in a couple of weeks I was going back to his place after work. She wiped her eyes. My shirt was already wet with her tears. When Cliff found out, he absolutely hit the roof. 8 months of almost no affection, but in almost no time, I was in the arms of another man. I tried to justify it, but he threw me out of the house. I tried to call Dave, but he didn't want to ruin the vibe of his bachelor pet. We could still hang out, be intimate, but I couldn't move in. I screamed over the phone that this was the cause of me being thrown out. He needed to step up and take care of me, but he just laughed and hung up on me. I had to spend 3 days in a hotel room and then find a studio apartment 10 miles from my work that I could afford while I figured things out. I found out a few days later that Cliff was already seeing another woman. He had gone out, gotten drunk, and slept with some girl the same night he threw me out. I guess sometime after that was when he met, she sighed, his new girlfriend. The divorce papers came quickly. He tried to make things as amicable as possible, but his lawyer told me that I should keep my distance. He was angry, and trying to find him in person would just make things worse. She sniffled. I only ever saw him again in the courts, and there's a darkness in his eyes. It all moved so fast, and you know what the worst part is? She looked up at me. All I had to do was enjoy him. We were such a good couple. He was a good lover, and we always felt great after we were intimate. She shook her head. Even now I lie awake, asking myself what I was even trying to accomplish. She buried her head in my chest. I just don't know, and that's the worst part. I thought I was in control, but I traded away lots of affection and an amazing man for nothing. All I could do was hold her. This must have been stewing inside of her for weeks. But she needed an outlet. Another human being who would listen, accept, and not break her down further. She looked up at me. "You're not going to run away now, are you?" I shook my head. She felt so good in my arms. Honestly, she felt like a clearance item that had been a return and the store was just pricing it to get it out the door. She wouldn't like that metaphor, but for me it was like winning the lottery. She was beautiful, intelligent, had some personal awareness, and had already realized the cost of her actions. The only question was whether she'd repeat the mistakes of her past. Maybe I could gently encourage her. I put my nose to her hair, breathing in the vague smell of citrus and hairspray. "Hey, if this version of Wendy is the real product, then I'm keeping you, no doubts." She smiled even through her tears. "Thank you," she whispered. She put her hand on my cheek and pulled me into a kiss. Ironically, that was the best kiss we had since we started dating. When we met up again, I came with a mental list. I feel like we needs to maintain some accountability. She looked at me a little strangely, but she at least seemed to understand. "I suppose that my track record is not stellar. If you want mutual accountability, then I guess that's fair." She looked at me waiting. I nodded. "Okay, well, first, no secrets. Looking at each other's phones or laptops is accountability, not judgment. It's not an everyday thing, but glancing at screens sometimes is reasonable." She nodded. "Okay." Second, questions about each other's lives aren't accusations. I expect you to interact with men professionally and casually. If I ask about Brad at the office, or you ask about Cindy the waitress, it's not inherently an assumption that something is happening. We just share what's going on frankly and earnestly and accept each other. I could tell that she hated that, but also that it sounds entirely reasonable. She nodded stiffly. I looked directly at her. "I need you to be okay with this." I watched as her face hardened, but then she looked down. She sighed sadly. Then she looked up at me. "Yes, I understand. I know I'll want you to be honest with me." She paused. "What else?" I took a deep breath. "I want to be able to track each other, just see where the other person is. Our phones are compatible. Not only will it provide accountability, but if there's something wrong, we could go where the other is." She stared at me. I could hear her breathing. Each other, she whispered, so I can see where you are, and you can see where I am. Both ways. I nodded, slowly and seriously. I pulled out my phone and unlocked it between us. Slowly, as she watched me, she opened her own phone and unlocked it. We exchanged links to track each other. A moment later, her location popped up on my map. We're clearly sitting in the same place. She looked at her phone. I can see where you are. Are you okay with that? Yes, I said emphatically. I want you to be confident that I'm honest with you and that I'm where I'm supposed to be. She nodded, then hesitated. What if I go somewhere weird, but I have a good reason? I thought for a second. It'll be easy to confirm. Sending an image in a text or getting on a video call should be able to clear up any questions if we're being honest. She stared off. Yeah, I guess you're right. Being accountable is removing doubts about our intentions. She nodded and looked at me. Taking 1 minute to show each other that our actions match our words isn't hard, and it will put the other at ease. She put her phone down and reached for my hand. If you're going to live by the same rules, that actually feels nice, like we're on the same page. It doesn't feel like a punishment if we have the same standard. I remained quiet for a bit. Good, I'm glad you're okay with all this, both ways. Because if you decide you can't live with the accountability, then I'm going to leave the relationship. She looked up at me. I could see hostility. She opened her mouth, about to say something. But then, again, she looked down at her hands, looking sad, and then said, if accountability is mandatory, I guess it's what I deserve, since you know my past. She looked up at me. But you're going to be accountable to me, and I get to look at your stuff. I nodded, unlocking my phone and handing it over to her. That's the deal, Wendy, the total deal. She looked down at my phone. She took it in her hand, and I could see she was perusing my emails, my texts, and looking at my social media. Not much drama, she said. I don't do drama, I responded. Too stressful. She looked at me like that was impossible. No drama? Like gossip or messiness? None. I shook my head. I could see her think, that actually sounds really nice. She thought for a bit, like don't create issues if they don't exist and enjoy life for its own sake. I nodded. Wow, I never even thought of that. She opened her own phone, looked down at it. I've been living to find drama, but now I don't even know why. She unlocked it, looked at a couple of apps, then handed it to me. I perused. Nothing drastic. Emails with friends, bills. Her Facebook feed definitely had drama. Texts about makeup and outfits. It seemed really unpleasant, but it was her life. I handed it back, smiled, and let it go. Looks like we're being honest with each other, and we're upfront about it, no drama between us. She nodded. That feels great. I don't know why I ever wanted anything else. She put her phone in her purse. Then she moved closer to me. She rested her head on my shoulder, so it's about keeping the air clear, so no one has any reason to doubt. I put an arm around her. Something like that. And by being accountable, that removes tension. We're just accepting each other. Yes, I said. She started stroking my chest. I feel freer, she said. I thought it would feel like I was shackled or something. But now I feel like our cards are on the table, and there's no room for doubt or fear. She looked at me again. I like this. And then we kissed again. A few weeks later, I was out with some friends. I had told her I was having a guy's night out, and she just sent me a smiley emoji when I messaged her when I was going. But a few hours later, I got another text. Babe, where are you? I never seen that location before. Are you at someone's apartment? I sent a message back. At my buddy Kyle's place. We're just shooting the breeze. A few minutes passed. Can you send me evidence? This felt like a test, like she was expecting me to prove where I said I was. But accountability wasn't there for when it was convenient. It was meant to prove that our words were true. So I decided to make not just a statement, but an exclamation. I got Kyle to mute the TV, got all the guys into a selfie, and took a video where we all said, "Hey Wendy, Brett loves you." I handed it around. Everyone laughed. Then I hit send. Several minutes passed. It was proof, but it was a little weird. I wondered if it was a little too much. But then out of nowhere, my phone buzzed. The text from her was just a laughing emoji. I sent the same back, happy that she understood. A week after that, we were sitting on her couch, And uncharacteristically, she had been fiddling with her phone for a half hour, not really paying attention. Finally, I started looking over her shoulder. It was clearly nothing important. Work stuff, gossip with her friends, Instagram. Then she looked over at me. Have you been looking over my shoulder this whole time? I just nodded. I could see the storm brewing on her face. That's, she must have seen me cringe in expectation of a rant, but she caught herself. That's fine, she quietly admitted. She actually offered me her phone. I took it, looked at her emails, then Facebook, then handed it back. Looks like everything is just fine. For 6 months, everything was going perfectly. Wendy was easygoing. If there was a question, we asked each other. If there was a hint of a doubt, a question was asked, clarity was provided, and nothing was suspicious. I would visit her place, and her phone would be left face up on the coffee table. She'd see something funny on her phone and just show it to me, which was great. I'd be engrossed in my laptop, and she'd peek at my screen. Sure, it was just Excel, but when you're trying to get the numbers to work, it's impossible to look away. One day, I was working on a project and needed a random piece from a craft store, and when I was getting directions, I noticed her location was kind of far away. It wasn't a place I had seen her before. Hey, Wendy, where you at? It took 10 minutes for her to respond. When she did, it said, I'm just meeting Dave for coffee. It took a minute for me to gather the pieces together. I was trying to remember who that was. A coworker, some old friend, maybe a cousin that she was comfortable with. But then I remembered. I sent angry text as fast as my fingers could type. Dave, the guy you were cheating with behind Cliff's back. A moment later, her location dot disappeared. She had turned off tracking. She was home a half hour later, but I was seething. Never had I felt so angry with anyone in my life. She quietly padded into the room, sitting on the chair across from me. Nothing happened, I can prove it. She handed me her phone. I took it. Texts back and forth, casual, a few jokes. The offer for coffee, acceptance. I put the phone down on the coffee table. You think spending personal time with your adulterous fling is acceptable behavior? You think that that's just okay? We're not doing anything, Brett. We were just having coffee. I sat in front of her for a long time. Were you thinking about him? Were you imagining how he had felt in the past? Were you negotiating with yourself about how it wasn't that bad? Once again, she opened her mouth. I could tell she was about to accuse me of everything under the sun, but I just glared at her, daring her to deny the things that were obvious. Finally, she just said, yes, I was. It's like you can read my mind somehow. And you just conveniently decided to forget that he left you hanging after Cliff kicked you out. Didn't you, that guy who used you and then left you hanging? That's the man that deserves to be in your life. This time, the anger really flashed in her eyes. You really are a control freak, Brett. All you've done is control me. I stood up. I had no time for this. I'm going to make this clear, Wendy. You can choose happiness or you can be free of accountability. But I'm not going to be the guy who sits back and pretends that you're being a good girlfriend when you're clearly making destructive decisions. We can just agree to change our Facebook status to single again. She looked at me questioningly. I could hear the next question before she said it. I dared her to ask with my eyes. I think she could tell. It was actually kind of sad. We were already on the same wavelength, but she was willing to blow it all up, even with the guy who had proved he had never really loved her. Finally, she asked, can I think about it? I kept my face hard. Thinking about it means that you expect me to trust you to act in good faith. That still requires the full accountability. You are bound by the same rules, the very rules I hold myself to, unless we're completely broken up and done. She stared at me for a long time. I want to be able to talk to Dave. Maybe I do want to be with him. Fine, I said. Talk to him on the phone. Make your decision before you go to be with him. Even tell me I'll let you walk away and be with him. But if your location tracker is off by the time the door is closed, you'll only be coming back to gather your stuff. She stared at me. I could see the calculus going on in her head. So turn my location back on and I can talk to him on the phone. Not in person. I nodded. And I want to be with him. You'll just let me go. I nodded again. Fine, I'll call him right now. You can even listen to my side of the conversation. It was a bold move on her part. I wanted to see if her plan was going to work out. She dialed his number. I could tell when he answered. "Hey, Dave." Yeah, he freaked out, like hit the wall and everything. That was true. No reason to get upset. "Yeah, we're thinking of breaking up. Yeah, we could be together." Got 2 bottles of water and put one between her and the arm of the chair. Then I sat down on the couch, opened mine, started drinking, and waited. She cried for a while. She was clearly embarrassed, shamed, humiliated, and, worst of all in her own mind, wrong. Finally, after 15 minutes, she felt the cold water bottle against her. She picked it up, opened it, and drank half the bottle. "I've never felt so stupid in all my life," she said through her tears. "You were protecting me, weren't you? Not from any guy or from me enjoying myself, but from my own stupidity." She looked at me. I nodded a little. She drank some more. Then she looked down at the bottle. "Is it too late?" I thought for a long time. This has to be the last time. I can't be living on a roller coaster. You wrecked your marriage because you couldn't be accountable, and you came a hair's breadth from wrecking this. I shook my head. I can't live like this. This has to be the last take back. And if you ever so much as talk to Dave again, it's over." She sighed. "Yeah, I get it." She paused. "I should have known he was going to do this. I wish I had listened to you the whole time." She looked down at her phone. "Now what?" I sat for a minute. "Block him on your phone and on everything. All your social media. If you respond to him with so much as a hey, we're done." She looked at me. It was harsh, but she didn't hesitate. After a few minutes, "Okay, he's blocked. If he tries to contact me, you'll be the first to know." I nodded. Location tracker back on. No exceptions, no excuses. A minute later, my phone buzzes. Her location tracking is back on. She looked at me. "And everything goes back to how it was before. No hiding anything. We communicate. You need the accountability. And that means no sneaking around with other men, no coffee dates, no hanging out outside of work. The only man you spend time alone with is me." She nodded. "Okay, Brett, I understand." She shook her head. "I hate myself right now." She looked down at her bottle of water, finished it, crushed the empty bottle in her hand, and sighed. Can I come over there with you?" I thought for a long time. "I'm not feeling very romantic right now, so don't try to make any moves. But if you need to feel held, come on." She slowly got up, moved over to the couch, sat down close to me, and leaned in. "I feel like I get it now. Like, last time I liked it when I felt like we were both being honest with each other, but I didn't truly get it. I partly thought it was silly, but now I understand. It's better this way." I put one arm around her. "That's what I needed to hear."